Okay. So the first question is, can you give a little background about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I've been homeschooled all my life, and one of the reasons for that is, my mom wanted me to, wanted me to love learning, and so she saw a lot of kids in school who didn't really love learning so much. So that's one of the things. That's sort of my homeschool background. My background in general is like, I guess I'm now an author of a book called The Power of Words for Teens. And I mean, as far as like story goes, I've always grown up in a house of entrepreneurs, and so like that's sort of what I want to do.
Why did you decide to homeschool?
Well, part of that was like my mom started homeschooling me when I was about 5, and I kind of said this before, but one of the reasons was because she wanted to make sure that my brother and I loved learning. And then another reason is that like so there's a lot of bullies in school, or like a lot of the indoctrination happening in school. And she didn't really want to give us up. I guess she wanted to spend more time with us, and that's a lot of your time is spent in school. So that's pretty much the reasons.
That's great. And what's your opinion on homeschooling? Like, how do you like it? What are the pros and cons?
Yeah, well, I would honestly, homeschooling is probably the best thing for me, and I absolutely love homeschooling. I think if like you want to homeschool, you totally should, because there's a ton of pros and
Uh,
cons. I mean, for me, when I stay up really late, but yeah, and then like, what's up?
I stay up late too.
Oh yeah, see, that's definitely. And then there's tons of pros. You can get a lot of confidence from homeschooling, and get a lot of. You get to really pick and choose what you want as far as like education goes, what you want to learn, how it works best for you when you do learn. That's awkward, but yeah. So like, and then a few cons are like sometimes it can be expensive because curriculum can be expensive or whatever, and you don't have a school system to pay for all that. But I mean, that's not that big of a deal if you're thinking about your education and like your actual life. So
hmm Um, three more questions. How is your location, like where you live, affected your homeschooling choice? And like, were there different options you had or restrictions upon homeschooling?
that's a really good question. I have grown up in a organization. It's called Homeschoolers of South Texas, and so I live in Texas, and I've actually had a ton of friends because of this sort of organization that I've grown up in. I've had a very big community of homeschoolers, um, and so I've grown up with a ton of friends just from that. And like we don't see each other every day, but we do get to do basically any extracurricular activities that like normal school people would go to. So we've got a drama class, I've got a speech and debate group, there are football, and there's cheerleading. Like there's all the stuff you would find in normal school, like where I live, for homeschoolers. So it's might be a little bit more expensive, but it's also like it's worth it because that's one of the places you see your friends, and it's nice. So that's sort of how I've grown up.
How would you think your life would be different if you had decided to go to public school instead of homeschooling?
I've actually been thinking about this like a lot, especially like within the last year, just from looking at like my life and the people I've seen around it. So I have looked at it and kind of been okay. So if I had gone to public school, I would probably be like just like everyone else. I feel like a lot of times public school ends up sort of just beating the creativity out of you, or making it almost requiring it to be extremely quiet. And so like if I had gone to public school, I feel like that might have happened to me. Um, but another thing is like I probably wouldn't have written my book, and I probably wouldn't have, because it wouldn't be as valuable to me as I would have had I grown up in a culture where, you know, like the words are used so easily, like without thinking,
Yeah, the freedom.
you know. So it's one of those. Exactly. And then, yeah, I'm a lot more. I don't like the idea of like acting mature just to act mature. You know, like a lot of people might see me as like being immature just because I don't particularly want to grow up. Like I've never really wanted to. Like I am mature and I do act like my age, but at the same time, like I'm alright with using my imagination and I'm okay with, you know, being hanging out with like little 5-year-olds and being like, oh yeah, we're gonna go be princesses, you know, like that's okay. I'm cool with that, you know, and that's one of the things that I wouldn't particularly have if I had gone to public school, I think.
Do you have any advice for younger viewers out there who want to be like you?
Uh, Honestly, like I think some big advice would be like just commit and like do the work and sit down and take the time, decide what your goals are, decide what you want to do with your life, and you know, go for it because the only thing stopping you is you.
Yeah, that's great. Um, I'd also seen on your channel that you're like a singer and a songwriter. Is that true?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like, you have a lot of passions on there, like skateboarding, writing. Like, how will you follow all those passions and choose like what one you really want to do when you have to make the choice?
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing is that like I am a Christian and so I believe in God. And one thing is that like I feel like God is telling me and he's been telling me like, hey, so these are the sort of the three things I have for your life as like professional goals. And so one of them was being an author, and I've sort of achieved that. So that's like a life goal that I've already gotten, and it's a little scary. And then another one was to be a speaker and be sort of like a professional motivational speaker, inspirational speaker. And then the last one is music. And those are like the things that God has like told me, like, hey, these are the professional things that I want you to pursue and I want you to focus on.
That's great.
And that's sort of how I've decided. But I mean, like, skills and things, all they take is time. So if you want to learn how to do something, then all you have to do is take the time and do the work, I think. So,
That's great. Thank you for taking the time to be interviewed.
of course.
So I'm gonna stop.